الحين واصل.
Et comme le couscous fait partie du quotidien de tous les Mauritaniens, on aimerait bien qu'il soit inscrit dans le patrimoine culturel de l'UNESCO.
أنا كفتاة تونسية نعتز ونفتخر بالجذور الأمازيغية للكسكسي واللي ترمز إلى ترابط الأجيال والشعوب وإلى هويتنا الثقافية الوطنية، وأنا نتمنى تسجيله في قائمة اليونسكو للتراث الثقافي اللامادي العالمي.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Bonjour tout le monde. Bonjour. Alors, moi je vais vous parler en français pour commencer, mais la présentation, ça va être en anglais, parce que mon collègue ne parle pas français malheureusement. Donc on va faire la présentation en anglais. S'il y a des choses que vous ne comprenez pas, ou si vous avez des questions, n'hésitez pas de poser des questions en français. Je vais traduire et on va avancer comme ça. Donc, si vous avez des questions en anglais, bien sûr qu'on va accepter des questions en anglais aussi. Donc, voilà. Merci à tout le monde ici avec nous aujourd'hui. Merci, bienvenue à l'espace UNESCO. Vous allez trouver tout ce que vous voulez savoir sur UNESCO et surtout sur le public UNESCO que vous allez voir derrière. Il y a un espace pour les jeunes, il y a un espace pour tout le monde. Donc, mon nom, c'est DENISON. Je suis responsable de publication à UNESCO. Je suis aussi responsable pour le programme qui s'appelle Capitale mondiale de livre. Donc, je suis responsable pour ce programme depuis 10 ans. Et la présentation aujourd'hui, ça va être sur ce programme. Ma collègue Gvantsa JOBAVA Elle est vice-présidente de l'association de professionnels de auteurs, de maisons d'édition. Elle va parler avec moi, elle va se présenter tout à l'heure, mais la première chose que je vais faire, c'est faire une petite présentation sur le programme de UNESCO, Capitale mondiale du livre. Donc je vais commencer en anglais, donc excusez-nous pour l'anglais. Je suis sûr que vous parlez tous un petit peu l'anglais, mais s'il y a des choses que vous ne comprenez pas, je répète, vous pouvez intervenir, demander plus d'explications. Donc, est-ce qu'il y a quelqu'un ici qui connaît le programme de UNESCO sur Capitale mondiale du livre? Non. Ah, si, madame. Je ne vais pas demander d'expliquer. Ah, si, vous voulez expliquer, que vous connaissez?
Écoutez, un petit mot peut-être. Moi, je suis au ministère des Affaires étrangères et donc je travaille sur la coopération, notamment avec l'UNESCO. Alors oui, le réseau Capitale mondiale du livre, c'est un réseau, bien sûr, de l'UNESCO qui implique plusieurs États membres. Et c'est par rapport aux villes qui sont créatives, qui plus ou moins encouragent la publication d'ouvrages, la création. Donc c'est tout un ensemble de paramètres qui font qu'il y a des villes membres qui peuvent postuler pour devenir capitale mondiale. Je sais qu'il y a quelques villes africaines qui étaient auparavant capitale mondiale, et puis il y a tout un processus de préparation. Donc c'est quand même un événement qui donne un certain rayonnement au pays, et voilà. Donc je pense brièvement.
Vous êtes de Rabat? Bon, très bien. So I will shift to English. So if you want to know more about World Book Capital, the best place to start is Wikipedia. Wikipedia has a whole page on World Book Capital, so I'm sure after this presentation you will want to know more, and the best place to go is to Wikimedia. So I will just give you how they explain World Book Capital. So World Book Capital is an initiative of UNESCO which recognizes the promotion of books and reading, and it's a program that starts every year on the 23rd of April, because 23rd of April is World Book and Copyright Day. It's the day that internationally we recognize the need for books and for reading, and so every year we have a new World Book Capital. So that's so cities designated by UNESCO World Book Capital, they carry out activities for a whole year, aiming to encourage culture of reading for all ages and to share UNESCO's values. So every year we do a call for cities to present themselves. The call for this year has already gone out and we're waiting for the results. Once we get a certain number of nominations from cities from around the world, the choice of the cities goes to a panel or an advisory body. The advisory body is made up of the 4 biggest associations in the world that work on books and reading. So, for example, Gvantsa, she works for the International Publishers Association, so they are one of our partners. We also have the International Federation of Libraries Associations, who also are partners. We have the International Booksellers, who also are partners, and we have the International Authors Forum, who are also our partners, who help us decide which city has the best presentation to become World Book Capital. So every year cities, they present themselves, and it's a competition between cities. It's one of the rare occasions at UNESCO where cities compete against each other. For example, there's another program at UNESCO called Creative Cities, and it's not a competition. There's a list of criteria, but cities do not compete for first place. World Book Capital, cities compete among each other. And as my colleague mentioned, last year, not this year, this year is Strasbourg who won the title. Last year it was Accra in Ghana. And I will just quote for you what the president of Ghana said when he was opening the ceremony when Accra became World Book Capital. So he said, he said that the World Book Capital title is a catalyst for social transformation. And he said that World Book Capital is like the World Cup of books. So cities that win the title become the world champions for books. So this is why there's so much hot competition to become UNESCO World Book Capital. And this is why we want to present to you today the program. So it's not enough for me to talk about Wikipedia. I think what's best is really to have somebody who works with UNESCO in the choice of cities, and somebody from a city that already won the title and can explain benefits of winning the title. So this is why we've invited Gvantsa JOBAVA. She is the Vice President of the International Publishers Association, and she has another hat. She's also from the city of Tbilisi in Georgia. So she can give an objective point of view on the choices and the importance of World Book Capital from the point of view of the Publishers Association. And she can also explain how Tbilisi has benefited from this World Book Capital title. So I will hand over to Gvantsa. She will introduce herself, and then I will ask her some questions that she can reply to. And in the replies, you will see the importance of this program for UNESCO and for competing cities. So over to you.
Thank you, Ian. Hello to everyone. It's a great pleasure for me to be here. It's my first time in Morocco, second day, and I'm already very, very impressed. I'm happy to see this book fair as well, so dynamic, full of people and a lot of publishers, but I have to discover more. I have a few more days for this, and I'm really happy because of this opportunity, and very grateful to UNESCO for having me here, but not only for this, of course, for being our partners in IPA and being our friends, the friends of Georgia. And Tbilisi, of course, especially. So I'm Gvantsa JOBAVA. As Jan said, I will just briefly introduce myself, that I'm right now the Vice President of International Publishers Association. I'm a Georgian publisher. And when Tbilisi, our capital, was the World Book Capital in 2021, I was the President of the Georgian Publishers and Booksellers Association, so we were partnering, the main organizer of this project, and that was wonderful experience. Well, I'm a publisher, Intellective Publishing, one of the biggest publishing houses in Georgia, which I'm representing, and I was also one of the heads of the Georgia's very important project, guest of honor project at Frankfurt Book Fair in 2018. So this is briefly, I won't talk more about this because I think that most important topic today will be the World Book Capital. So Jan, I'm happy to receive your questions.
Thank you very much. Thank you for coming, Gvantsa, and thanks for being our guest. As I said, I think it's important that we get a point of view outside of UNESCO, because we can talk about ourselves all the time, but it's always better that we have someone who benefits from UNESCO's program, who explains what happens on the ground. So my first question, is it still working? Yes. Can you explain the role of IPA, the International Publishers Association, in particular IPA's work with UNESCO on the World Book Capital program?
With pleasure. As we mentioned a few times, IPA, the International Publishers Association, which is the global organization representing publishers all around the world. It's 101 organizations from 92 countries. So we are the partners of UNESCO in this project, and we were standing with UNESCO from the very beginning when the International Book Day and Copyright Day and World Book Capital project started, because our past president at that time, Pierre Vicens, from Spain, he was one of the first initiators of this project, and this is how it started in Madrid, which was the first World Book Capital city. So since then, IPA is always standing with UNESCO in this project, because we think that this is one of the most important projects which helps local markets, local publishers us to develop in different ways, in many ways, because it gives a lot of opportunities. So we see this, we respect this, and we think that it's very, very important for our member publishers as well. So that's why we are in part of the advisory committee. We are one of the organization which evaluates the applications and gives their ideas about the participants of the evolution, and also we are trying to promote, of course, the applications as well when it is out, because we want our members to learn about it, and we want them to, of course, participate in this competition, which finally then goes to the results about which Jan already talked about. So this is what we really do for the World Book Capital, but of course, beside this, there are a lot of things. This is how I am here, participating in this beautiful event. So we try to be there where the World Book Capital is.
Thank you very much. So that's the point of view of the International Publishers Association, because the IPA, as Gvantsa explained, was one of the main organizations that initiated the World Book Capital Program, and as Gvantsa explained, has been a very solid partner to UNESCO all the way through. So I will address maybe the second question to Gvantsa, because she has her second hat. She's from Tbilisi, which if you have not visited, then you should, because it's one of the most beautiful capitals in the world, and extremely welcoming population, and you definitely enjoy your stay in Tbilisi, and a visit to Georgia is very important. So my second question to Gvantsa is, what do you think were the elements in the proposal to UNESCO that helped Tbilisi win the World Book Capital designation?
Well, this is one of my favorite questions, I can say, because I like to speak about it. So when we decided to participate in this competition, it was our first time, and when we applied, we won, and it was quite a miracle, because we are not expecting that on the first try we will achieve our goal, but it was, of course, amazing news for Georgia. As for the application, of course, there might be a lot of reasons, and Jan knows better why they choose on that time Tbilisi as the World Book Capital, but we, of course, have our own opinion about it. World Book Capital, you know that officially the state, local city hall is applying for this project. This is the rule of this project. And sometimes, it's about the relationship between the private sector and state, and it might become complicated for publishers. But in our case, it was a very, very good example for us. I don't say that we always in Georgia afford to peacefully negotiate with our government. It's not like this at all. But in case of World Book Capital, it was a good example. Probably the reason was that the organization, which was created specifically for this event by the state, was headed by very nice people who were coming from the publishing industry with publishing background, and they understood very well how important the cooperation between state and the private sector is. So we started to discuss how we want to do this from the very beginning. I mean, the Nini Amacharashvili, who was the director of this project from Georgia, she invited us, all the organizations who were active in the publishing and literary field in Georgia, and we started discussing together before they wrote the application. So the idea was that was we were uniting our forces, and all of us could say what was important for this application, and what was very important is that what we wanted to achieve after winning this competition and after becoming the World Book Capital, what challenges each sector had, what challenges the publishers had, libraries had, writers had, and what we wanted to improve after this project. So I guess that it worked because all of us had the voice in the project. All of us could apply with our own initiatives. So for instance, Publishers Association, which I was representing, we said that in the publishing industry, we want this. We want these projects. Libraries said we want these projects. So everyone applied, and it was collected in the head in this organization, which was created by state, and then this is how the application was created. So I think that this is very, very important example. So it kind of helps you to learn, especially to state, how important the professionals should be in this project, because these are the people for whom this project is created, and this outcome mostly should go to the publishing industry, to libraries, to writers, and so on. So understanding of for what we are doing this, just for promotion, that tomorrow the city will be called as a World Book Capital, and of course it's fantastic, or we really want to do our work. I think that from the very beginning, every city which decides to apply should think about this, what they want to achieve after they become the World Book Capital.
Thank you very much. Very good explanation. I think the main point on how cities win, one of the main elements is for cities to be able to show that their program is sustainable. That is that although the competition is, if you win, you do activities for 1 year, the reality is what we want is a program which can be sustained for the future. So it's not just for 1 year. It goes beyond that. And in fact, we have created recently the World Book Capital Network, and it keeps cities involved for a much longer time than 1 year, and it enables cities to help each other with future activities and to help other cities become World Book Capitals. Gvantsa mentioned that Tbilisi won on the first go, which they should be congratulated on. Just so that you know, cities not always win on the first time that they apply. There is one city that applied 9 times to become World Book Capital. And they won on the 9th time, and that city is Sharjah from the UAE. They did not give up, they persisted. They kept coming back each year. They kept discussing with UNESCO, and finally, on the 9th time that they applied, they won the title. So it's important that cities apply, and if they don't succeed, then they keep applying. In terms of Tbilisi, I think it's very interesting that Tbilisi applied before COVID. Tbilisi applied well before COVID, but in their program, they had this slogan which said, books and reading are a way of vaccinating against ignorance and vaccinating against solitude. So already they had the vaccination ready, and when they won the title actually happened itself during the COVID period. So they were always already talking about vaccinations, so it was very, very catchy. I don't know how they knew the future, but apparently they did. So I have a third question. I think this is probably the most important question. It's really about the impact of the World Book Capital Program on the city itself. So Tbilisi won the title in 2021. As I explained, it was in the middle of COVID, so it was not easy to apply the program. But they did, and we think they were quite successful. But just as it has to be a sustainable program, the impact has to be sustainable as well. So maybe, Gvantsa, you can explain a little bit the immediate impact of becoming World Book Capital, and then maybe the long-term impact on books and reading in Tbilisi and in Georgia more generally.
All right, let's start with what? Yeah, with the fact that the World Book Capital Project gives the reason to the state to give the money to the publishing industry for development. So this is already great impact, because it's always very difficult to convince the state to give more money to cultural field, and then specifically to the publishing and literary industry. And this great huge project becomes a reason that it's not under question anymore. They took this responsibility, and then now they should do more for the development. So that was great, of course, and as I already mentioned during my previous question, we're ready to spend this money in the project we thought that is important for development of our sector. So we had these specific projects, and sometimes we can say dream projects as well, which we could not fulfill before because of lack of money and financial support, but we always wanted and wished to create those projects in our country. So this project had different directions for us, and we worked in different fields, but I think that first of all, what we managed, let's start with the book fair. We of course have a big book fair in Georgia, but we wanted to create specifically children's book fair, and this project gave us the opportunity, and every year now this book fair is celebrated in Georgia, and City Hall is still funding this project, so organized by Publishers Association. Also, what we wanted literary prize specifically for children, because before that we did not have this opportunity, and still this literary prize, Nakaduli called so, is still existing, and every year we are able to give the prizes for the writers, books, publishers, for the literary creations and children's books specifically. What has been done is that the few libraries were renovated during this year, and of course we do have these libraries. Readers have these modern libraries now, which is a great achievement because it was not possible before that project, and this project gave to the City Hall again the motivation to have better buildings, because if we want our readers to go to the libraries, our society to visit libraries, we need to have modern buildings, because we need to give them comfort for reading. So now we have few more very beautiful libraries with great exhibitions, because I remember that Frankfurt Book Fair in partnership specifically brought the German literature, German books, and we had this specific exhibition of books there, and we have these books as well. Well, development of libraries, and when we were writing this project, we thought, what is our problem in libraries? And we found out that the problem is that school libraries don't have the modern literature. And we said that we need to work on accessibility on books, because the economic situation in the country is not so brilliant, and children need to have access to the new books, and how we can achieve this, and we can achieve by giving the libraries new books. So that was I think that was very, very important project, because in Tbilisi all the public schools received the new books, and now the libraries are full of contemporary literature, and children can still, of course, read there, which is also so important. A lot of other projects for illustrators, for libraries, for writers, residencies. So there are projects which was one-time project maybe, but still, for instance, I will mention the first Black Sea Basin and Caucasus region publishers conference. It was specifically for our region, just to help the publishing professionals from the region to meet each other and to work on development. And that was one time project, but I was telling to Jan just before we started our presentation that Bulgaria, which was the part of this conference, decided to create Black Sea Literary Festival now in Bulgaria, they were inspired from us. So this means that had an impact not only on Georgia, but to other countries as well, and this is just only one example, of course. So also, I don't know, there was so many other projects. Jan knows this, and of course in the pandemic it was very difficult, very challenging for us, and what we missed, it was a public celebration, because we had to follow the regulations, and we could not do openly all the celebrations we wished to do, but still, you know, we could do the work. And what I was talking about here, it could be done even in the situation of pandemic. So once again, I don't know, I'm really very, very grateful to UNESCO for giving us this opportunity, because it's not only 1 year, it's long life friendship with UNESCO, still working. I know that Ninia, our director, is still very actively working with Jan and with World Book Capital, and very much involved in the future works, what the World Book Capital is now doing. And of course, this experience is coming back to Georgia, to Tbilisi, and still we are benefiting from this. So I think that briefly, this is what I could say about the outcomes of this project.
Thank you very much. It's very heartwarming to hear in detail about the impact. I think maybe one of the things I did not mention was that when UNESCO designates a city, UNESCO does not give any financial support, because we don't have financial support for this program. But what it does is it leverages the potential of the city to find their own finance and to find finance from private companies. In Tbilisi, one of the major banks was one of the main sponsors of the program. So without the designation, without the efforts of this program to promote books and wherever it occurs, then I think that is this still, yeah, it keeps going on and off, I think. I think that without that, then Tbilisi would be in the same situation as they were before 2021. So the impact is important, the impact is long-term, and I think it can be measured. So thank you very much for explaining all of that. So that's basically the end of the presentation. Are there any questions from the audience on different aspects of the World Book Capital program that you would like to ask? As I said, if you want to put the questions in French, si vous voulez parler en français, il n'y a pas de problème. Moi, je peux comprendre et je peux traduire pour Gvantsa si nécessaire. Donc, il y a une question ici.
I'm wondering whether I should speak in English or in French, but let me say in English.
Okay,
then.
go ahead in English.
Thank you so much for sharing your experience with us from a perspective of a publisher. You mentioned the success stories, the challenges, which is very, a good basis of knowledge for us, Morocco, if we want to initiate a similar process, maybe. Just briefly, at the level of coordination with the UNESCO, you mentioned that the funding was an issue. It was not an issue because the finance, there was a great share of interest from the part of banks, national banks. But briefly, can you just mention a few challenges at the level of cooperation with UNESCO in terms of financing such projects? I mean, what were really the basic challenges and at this level? If you can just mention briefly how was the coordination handled in this perspective? Thank you.
Well, I guess that there were not huge challenges. The challenge is, first of all, to convince the City Hall that to apply. if they agree to apply, then of course they understand that they are taking this responsibility that the most of the budget should be going from there. But to be honest, there was some gossip that that they were not expecting us to win on the first try. So when they heard that we won, of course they were happy, celebrating, but also surprised and also a little bit challenged that now this budget should go on this year, and they were not so much prepared, but they had to do something because the decision was made before. If they were expecting or not expecting, it was not under discussion anymore, of course. So they were also interested to help us in cooperation with the private sector, and thank you, Jan, for reminding that we were partnered by the biggest bank as well. And the state was also involved when we were talking with the private sector in like promoting the importance of this project, because there was their interest as well to find co-partners in this part in finances. So it was not only a bank, there were a few other organizations in smaller projects. Of course, it's a lot of work from the organizers to find in each case some reasons to go to the specific companies from the private sector and to convince them why this project, supporting this project will be like useful for them as well, and how they will be promoted in this project as a partners. It's a lot of work, and we had the marketing team there working on this, and specifically people who were working on sponsorship. But, well, it worked because, you know, it's a huge project. When you say that UNESCO gave to Tbilisi the status of the World Book Capital, and the whole world, the whole publishing and literary world will be looking at us as a center of publishing industry on this year, it's already a good reason for people to be interested, to be part of it. So, of course, as we were backed by UNESCO, it helped us a lot to talk to our civilians in the country from the different organizations. So, well, every project has a challenge, of course. Every project, can't be done, such a huge project can't be done without challenges. But at the end it worked. We had a lot of nice people around us, and a lot of people were trying to help and to share something from this huge celebration. And you know, it was a pandemic time, and it was a miracle that even in the pandemic we could have such a big book celebration. So yeah, this is how it worked.
Thank you. Maybe two elements to that. I think the success, really, part of the success is from the professionalism. And I think Gvantsa mentioned that, to have a good team on board and have a good team of professionals. So, for example, Strasbourg, which is World Book Capital this year, they had a full program and they had an ambition for a certain level of finance from the private sector and from the government. Finally, they got 30% more finance than they had counted on. And so they are managing to put into place 30% more activity. So when you have a good team, including a marketing team, a team on social media, it gives you the means to leverage the title, the name of UNESCO, and to get this kind of support that you need to bring about the activities. The second point I want to add to that, and I think this is something I didn't expect, but which happens nearly systematically, is making new connections. So I remember a colleague from Kuala Lumpur saying to me, and he's from the Publishers Association in Kuala Lumpur, who won the title just before Tbilisi. He said to me, you know, we have never spoken to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, we've never spoken to the Ministry of Education, we've never spoken to the local government. This is the first time. So in fact, when they won the prize, it was the first time that these people started working together, and they're still working together. So I think that's really an added value for all parties who get involved in the project, because the publishers, the booksellers, the librarians, the authors, they all have to start talking to each other, and they all have to start talking to the officials who will help them win the prize. So I think that is something which happens systematically, sometimes naturally, sometimes it's a forced friendship. But I think in the long term, it's something that stays and enables the publishers and the government to work together to help promote, not just by the publishers, but promoting books and reading more generally. So I think that's an important point. And it's a long-term benefit for everybody. Are there any other questions from the floor? Go ahead.
You said before that there are some cities that apply many times before being awarded the book capital, like Sharjah for 9 times.
Yeah.
Is there like a maximum number of attempts to get disqualified, or one can just work on the application more and more until getting it?
I think disqualified is a strong word. We don't disqualify anybody. There's no limit. And I think that Sharjah proved that there's no limit. I mean, if they had kept going for 20 times, then that's their choice. The limit is how you finance those, because it costs money and it costs a lot of effort and resources to make an application. So there's no limit on that. No, definitely not. So thank you everybody for coming. Merci beaucoup tout le monde pour être là pour la présentation aujourd'hui. Merci aussi pour les autorités marocaines qui nous ont aidés à mettre en place le stand et toutes les présentations. Et si vous avez besoin de plus d'informations, comme je vous ai dit tout au début de la présentation, il y a un site Wikipédia sur World Book Capital, il y a un site sur le site de UNESCO aussi. Et je vous invite à regarder le stand de l'UNESCO. Il n'y a pas que de présentation, il y a toute la partie de l'édition de l'UNESCO que je vous invite à regarder et visiter. Merci beaucoup tout le monde. Merci à Gvantsa. J'espère que vous allez partir avec plus d'informations que ce que vous êtes venu avec. Merci beaucoup.
Can I take a picture?